It was a relatively simple exercise in that we set up two different rooms in which there's two different cultures. They each established these different social norms. They both emphasized what was important in different ways. And they both had different goals, things that were taboo, things that were valued, things that were not. And then over the course of the evening, we had certain visitors leave and go into the other room and vice versa. And it became a little tense, and people in each of the rooms formed their own opinions about those in the other rooms and the cultures that they had.
The TAs, they formed two cultures. One was more, I guess, aggressive, like we could talk like English. The other one was not as direct, like it was more nonverbal, more motions. And we had to interact within our culture, so we had to learn a new culture, which was ours. And then we got to go to the other culture, observe, and figure out what were the norms, like what was, I guess, deemed respectful and what wasn't. And so we had to interact with that culture, and if they didn't think we did a sufficient job, or if we were rude or offensive, they kicked us out. We were like shunned, and we went back to our culture, we discussed, and then we went back and like we tried to understand each of the cultures. Our culture was very much like, hey, what's up? We were very sociable, we were loud, very loud, we were yelling. When someone from the other culture did something wrong, we would like, get out! Like we would scream. We were just very like excited in all aspects. So like when we would kick someone out, when someone wanted to play with us, we were just very happy, very excited. The other culture, their culture wasn't a game. So ours was more like happy-go-lucky. Theirs was like, okay, this is serious. I'm trying to trade cards, I need to get the money. So they were more reserved, more quiet.
We kind of examined a lot of the misconceptions that we had about the other cultures. It was very easy to figure out that without actually being able to have a meaningful dialogue with or a more open dialogue, it was so easy to believe these things that were really ridiculous about the other culture, and things that the other culture found to be a bit absurd in some ways, and the opposite was true, until we found out that things were radically different than what either side perceived them to be. I'd say that I learned how easy it is for one culture to form misconceptions about another culture. It is interesting to see that without a rigid or a more agreed upon way of discussing things with one from one culture to another, things are misconstrued, things are not clear. It's very difficult to figure out certain things about the other culture, what they think is important, what they think is unimportant, what they're trying to accomplish, whether it's a game that they're playing or they're not playing, or whatever business they're trying to conduct, whether they're winning something or losing something. I think that says a lot about the world at whole today in a lot of ways, because in the past there's countless examples throughout history in which one culture has just been introduced to another one and it finds it barbaric, or it doesn't understand it in some ways, and that leads to a lot of conflict. But this conflict can be prevented if a better understanding is formed by each culture of the other.
Lessons I learned was to, if someone approaches me from a different culture, to be understanding, to be informative, to let them know, and just to kind of appreciate their culture as well, and make their transition to ours a lot easier. Be understanding and compromising on both sides. It can't be your way or the highway, because in a culture, that's what you're born with, you're grown up with, it's how you're raised. So I feel the main key, and what I'm definitely going to take into my career, is to be understanding, like I said last time, and just to be appreciative of the other ones, as well as trying to show them what the good aspects of your culture is as well.
I think that I've learned from this exercise, and a lot of people have learned from this really simple exercise, how to be a bit more open-minded when approaching something new, whether it's a culture or whether it's another person. As we live in an era in which things are becoming more and more connected, we're more likely to, things are more likely to become more conflicted in some ways, whether it's the clashing of values, whether it's a clashing of social norms, and for us to be able to see that it's not just what we're viewing, but how we're viewing it and the lens that we're viewing it through. And to take a step back and realize that is very helpful, and it can prevent a lot of conflict and really help things be reconciled between cultures and individuals for that matter.